Welcome back to the County Agent Podcast. It's been a couple of years since we've had one of these, but we are back like a hot check and got a repeat offender here with us, Clinton Laflin, that if you're from Barber County, you've seen him judge our county fair a few times on the cattle side. And Clint's been a longtime agent in Kansas with K-State Extension. Just relocated back to his old stomping grounds.
Yeah.
In Greenwood County. So how was the transition from the district setting where you was at to a local unit in Greenwood County went?
Yeah, it's been interesting for me to come back to that. That's the 4-H program that I grew up in. But being in a single county, just trying to get kind of reacclimated to the producers and being close to family again has been great. For those of you that know, I've got my own cattle operation as well. So being able to run my cows on family ground again, that's pretty cool. And so, did I know that I would end up back in Greenwood County, 18 years ago when I left? I always thought I'd come back, but I just didn't know in what capacity. So I've enjoyed coming back, but there are some differences between a district and a county setting. I don't miss having to travel between counties as much, but it's still, regardless of whether it's a district or a county, it's all about, just establishing those good relationships with producers or 4-H kids and families again. In some cases, I think that's the most important thing of what we do in Extension is just building on relationships and working with people. So that part of the job really hasn't changed.
So I'll clarify, we're in an empty room right now at 4-H Rally in Great Bend, Kansas.
Yes.
So if you're seeing this on Spotify or YouTube, that's the reason the tables are behind us. We just kind of grabbed a time slot that we could to do this. Well, walk me through, has your role, did you have much of a 4-H role in the district setting when you was up there? Because I know you was the district director, and I know you did a lot with the livestock side, but
Yes.
Did you have much of a role with 4-H?
Really my role with 4-H was more strictly on the livestock side. So I did a lot with our YQCAs, our weigh-ins, our tagging. I'd get the judges every year for the livestock portion of the fair. But I would say that my 4-H responsibilities have increased since coming home. And because this is the first time that I've ever attended program rally. And so, and helping more with club days and doing quite a few more 4-H related activities, which is great. I was a key award winner when I was in 4-H and very active on a lot of different things in our 4-H program. So to be back with the same families in a lot of cases, that's been fun for me. But yeah, definitely an expanded role.
So you just touched on something that I was curious, just how many of the same families are around from when you was there?
It's funny. And I was telling somebody this earlier, in a lot of cases, it's a lot of the same families, but I've been gone, I haven't lived in Greenwood County as a full-time resident in 18 years. So in a lot of cases, I know the family, but I don't know the kids necessarily. I've missed a generation. So that's been kind of amazing. But, a lot of and we have a very active 4-H program in the county. We've got a club with over 60 members in it. And so, I think it's pretty neat because I've been gone for a while, but people still recognize me when I'm at the gas station or, out feeding cows on a Saturday morning so I've been gone, but yet people haven't forgotten me, which time will tell if that's a good or bad thing yet, but so far so good.
And I forgot the last time you was on this podcast, we had Barrett Simon on here also.
Yes.
Talking about show cattle, and he's the auctioneer at the local sale barn.
Yeah.
So have you had an opportunity to go down there and razz him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Barrett, it's kind of a neat full circle moment for me. Barrett actually sold a set of bred heifers for me this fall, and I actually went into the sale here last week and saw him, and so it's been fun to be close again. So I'm sure we'll cross paths quite a bit.
Did you get the money that you deserved out of that deal? Did he do his job?
He did a one heck of a job. I was very, very pleased with it. And I told him he earned a gold star from me after the sale.
Did he do so good of a job that he's going to probably do the premium sale?
Yeah, we're working on that. Yeah,
probably for free.
Yeah,
because he's alumni too. Or was he in Butler?
He was in Butler County, but I'll probably twist his arm a little bit on that. So yeah, but looking forward to working with him.
I might know someone that helps him make decisions now. So if you need some help, let me know.
I can take all the reinforcements I can get. That's good. That's good to know, Justin, for sure.
So how is, in your time away from Greenwood County, have you noticed any differences in, say, like the type of cattle being run or the emphasis on cattle? Or are you seeing more stockers than cow-calf, things like that? Or have the family ranches changed?
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, for those of you that aren't familiar kind of with Greenwood County and where we're at, we're on kind of what I would call the southern edge of the Flint Hills. And so we've always had a lot of cattle emphasis, not as much farming for sure. And so any of the, a lot of those, but I have seen since I've been gone, I have seen an increase in stocker cattle. The Flint Hills and what they can gain per day on that grass is amazing still from, the 15th of April to the 15th of July. You're not going to find a better grass anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And so like those gains on those stocker cattle can be 3 pounds a day if it's done right. And so it's, so that piece of it, there's still some pretty good sized calf operations in that county, but I would say that there's a continued emphasis in stocker cattle for sure.
You bet. They, I don't think they're in the Brangus business anymore, but we did some work for the Brangus Association last year on the marketing side. We helped rebrand that organization and stuff. And I think there was a fairly significant Brangus breeder in Greenwood County, but
yeah.
For some reason I'm thinking.
Vern Soon would be very, very active in the Brangus business. So and Vern's still in it. So Soon Cattle Company. But then you've got and there's still some roots there too. So Brinks Brangus would have been there back in the 90s and very, very active. They've since gotten out of it. But they had an interim in Texas, but they were very, very involved. But yeah, Vern is still very active in the business.
So where you're at in Greenwood County, did the Brangus cattle, did they adjust good there?
Yeah, it's amazing. Brangus and my aunt and uncle Chris and Sherry Sankey have Brangus as well up by Council Grove, and that cross has done incredibly well. Brangus cattle have adapted very well, especially to our summer humidity, our flies, a lot of our, and so they really do pretty well. Now, I think some of those cattle, like in the last week or 10 days, it would have been a struggle a little bit, but I think that breed has so much to offer the industry just because of their heat tolerance and their insect tolerance as well. So so they really do adjust to that country, I would say, very well.
Good. Now on the flip side, is it primarily Angus country around there?
Yeah. So and like kind of the U.S. cattle industry. Back in my granddad, my mom's dad, grew up on a registered Hereford operation in Greenwood County. And so it was a kind of what I would call an old school Hereford stronghold. for a very long time, but gradually it's definitely more of an Angus-based commercial cow-calf herd as far as type for the county. And then there's also several seed stock ranches in the county as well. And so, but I would definitely say Angus would be the predominant breed in the county.
Is that kind of the story of Kansas? I don't know very many counties that weren't just dominated by Hereford, years ago, and now primarily commercial Angus.
Sure.
But, I will say in Barber County, for as much Angus as we ran, we are starting to see the Hereford influence come
back.
We've got some guys utilizing some Hereford bulls, to get the Baldy influence.
And it's amazing. I mean, that there's been reams and reams of data and studies done on, the value of heterosis and what, that does for our fertility and our cow herds and everything else. And so I really have seen a comeback in the Hereford breed as well, to use as an outcross. And I mean, I'm seeing some traces of that in the county as well. And so, and I mean, that cross is very, very well thought of in the feed yard sector. And I mean, so it's there for sure.
Yeah. Down the road. So just across the state line from us into Oklahoma, you got Cherokee Sales Company. And in the last few years, they've started twice a year. They do a Hereford influence sale. Mm-hmm. And boy, you talk about a good run of cattle that comes through. And they have
absolutely.
It's kind of neat to see. Nothing against the Angus cattle. They've done extremely well, but it's kind of neat to see some changes, some guys changing their strategies and stuff. So speaking of cattle, you was able to take your cow herd with you.
Yes. And go home.
And go home. You're back on, was it a grandparent's place?
Yeah. So I've got some inherited ground and a headquarters there for my grandparents, and it's pretty cool. We've been in Greenwood County on my mom's side since the 1880s. And and I've actually got in my inheritance, it's pretty cool. I've got the original, what we call the Huntington 240. So, and that's been in our family since the early 1900s. So to be able to kind of continue that family heritage on that piece of property is pretty neat.
You bet. Now, the last time you was on here, you was parading a bull around that was doing pretty good at some shows. Are you doing any more of that?
Yeah. So I actually, in November, I actually attended the Canadian Western Agribition in Canada, in Regina, Saskatchewan. And I own a bull with some partners and good friends of mine from Alberta. And so we showed him up there and got some semen interest, and I'm actually going to be able to bring him home and use him on cows for spring breeding. So excited about that, but still involved in the show side of it as well.
So when on your breeding strategies, are you doing natural breedings, or are you using any AI or embryo transfer?
Sure. So really a combination of all three. So I've got, and as I've kind of built my numbers, I've always kind of implemented some AI, but also kind of putting in more embryo transfer on a couple of my better donors. And so I'm doing all three. So
on when you do the embryo transfer, is there a special type of cow that you're looking for as a recip, or is it just your normal herd?
So really what I like to do on a recip program, and that's kind of a development, but I definitely want to have, a kind of a proven cow. And so this is actually a strategy that I learned from John McBee that used to work for Circle A in Missouri. And so his strategy was to be able to use a recip cow that had at least 3 AI sired calves as a commercial. And so that way you were making sure that you had enough fertility in those cattle. And so you'd have a better conception rate on those embryos. So what I'm trying to do is, and I'm kind of trying to put together some commercial cows as well as my registereds to kind of have an in-house, so to speak, recip program, because if they're doing well on my management and kind of my program, then hopefully they're going to make good recips too.
You bet. You bet. A little different than we run some goats, and in the goat world, they always tell you, don't use the goats that you're running for resets. You want to go out and get that Spanish because they're just more hardy. They're more apt to stick, and that's tough for a guy like me to wrap my head around because we put an emphasis on our female goats to function like true livestock.
Right.
And I'm like, I know what I got right there.
Sure.
If they won't lay down and raise one, then I don't want one around. So it's tough for me to want to bring in a set of Spanish goats. Plus, I run a closed herd.
Right. Right. So yeah.
But they say that's what you got to do, and I'm like, hey, maybe the goat deal's gotten out of hand if we can't raise our own recips.
Sure. And that's so cool to me that ET has expanded into a multi-species situation, because I really think if embryo transfer is done correctly, you can really improve the consistency and the quality of your program. And so, but I mean, for me to be able to have one as a donor, they've really kind of they've got to jump through a lot of hoops.
Yeah.
But if they do, then they've earned it.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about being able to build something back quick. That's something that I don't know if everybody does it, but I know of some big outfits like in Texas that during severe droughts that sold out, quote unquote.
Sure.
But they didn't empty out the tank.
No.
They had embryos in there, and that's how that. And now they're one of them's a social media influencer. We won't name names, but I'm like, well, that's how you build back so fast. If you're selling out, you keep the embryos in the tank, and when the time's right, you let it go.
Yeah, and it was pretty funny because when I was in high school and college, when I didn't have a lot of resources or ground or anything that, I would actually, at times, if somebody that I was working with or my dad or my uncle would owe me a little bit of money, I'd say, well, don't worry about paying me. We'll just trade out some of your embryo inventory. And so I've gone back and used some of that old proven stuff to help me build a program. And so I'm still going to do quite a bit of that, just because I think it gives me a unique genetic pool to go back and kind of work through. So I've got stuff out of our, a lot of our long-standing cow families that might be 20 years old, but I know the production value of those females. And so I'm doing some of that too.
You bet. You bet. So what is something that I know you just started back in Greenwood County, but do you have anything on your list that you're really looking forward to now that you're back home with Extension or 4-H or just your personal cow herd?
For me, I think it's so we have a very active cattlemen's association in Greenwood County. So it's a Greenwood County Cattlemen's Association, and my grandfather was president of that organization in 1972. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to come back and be involved in that organization with my own cattle and working with local producers on just questions and I think that's also one thing that I value a lot is being able to leave and be gone for 18 years with my own experiences and working with different people. And so being able to bring all of that back home, I think I'm excited to be able to share some of that knowledge with our kids and our local producers.
Do you think your time away starting out on your own the way you did, are you bringing more value back this time into Greenwood County personally? Are you bringing more a different perspective than what you might have had when you was there as a kid?
Yeah, it's amazing. I think I have really, I've really gotten to know what I want to do and kind of what I'm good at. And maybe at times, more importantly, maybe not what I'm good at and where I need to surround myself with good people. But I think I bring a lot more value to what I'm doing now because I left. And so if I would have started in that job or that role at any other time, I don't know if I would have been as valuable to our producers or our kids, just because everybody remembered me when I was 17.
Yeah.
We're now, I've kind of gone out and done some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I have that experience is very valuable, I think. And just to be able to help our kids see that there is something outside of Greenwood County, and me being able to say, well, I've judged, shows in 7 states and I've traveled to 6 foreign countries, and just, those type of things, and all the things that I've done because of a cow, I probably don't do if I stay home.
Yeah. I spent a couple of years out of extension, but years ago, me and my wife left Barber County for 10 years, and then we came back. And always said when we came back, it was like looking through life with a new set of glasses.
Yeah.
We went and experienced some other stuff outside the county. Actually, we lived in Greenwood County.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So about 8 miles west of Madison on the old rocky roads, we rented a place. I think they might have sold all that now, but it was the Horst family, Gene and Betty Horst and Danny Horst.
Yep. I know
Had
the
some
name.
ground in there. And we rented a house from them. I was a USDA inspector at Emporia. It was an IBP
Awesome.
plant then it transitioned
Sure,
to Tyson. But I can tell you one thing. I loved my time up there in Greenwood County. We was only up there for 3 years, and then I transitioned to a different role. But where we lived, right down the road, was the old doctor in Madison, Doc Browning, and he had one of the best fishing holes around. And I had permission to fish that thing anytime I wanted. And I tell you what, I've been to a better fishing place since then.
Sure. Well, I'll say this: I've got a couple good fishing ponds on my ground at home, and you are welcome anytime, my friend.
So what you're telling me is, I think usually in April, around the 3rd weekend or so, is that Flint Hills Classic. I should bring fishing poles.
You should.
Okay.
You should.
Speaking of that, have you made friends with Troy Richardson over there?
Yeah. I know Troy pretty well.
He's a guy probably needs to know in Greenwood County.
Yes. And Troy and I have actually swapped help at shows and stuff before I came back, and so I'm very fortunate to know Troy, and he's very handy at what he does.
Yeah, that's a guy that whatever he gets into,
he goes all the way.
There is no backup whatsoever.
No, there is no woe in his game plan at all when he starts something.
So I originally met him before his daughter got to showing cattle.
Yep.
He judged a lot of youth rodeos, high school rodeos and stuff, and that's how we met him.
Sure.
Through there.
Sure.
My first encounter with him is at a high rate of speed. He pulled up at the rodeo grounds in Eureka to see what I was doing there with pickup and flatbed.
Okay.
But he didn't know my wife was pulling in shortly behind me with the pickup and the living quarter. I told him who I was, and I said, "We're here for the high school rodeo. I just got this trailer because tomorrow morning I'm going over to D. Elliott's and filling this thing with hay." And he goes, "Oh, okay, all right. You're good."
You're okay.
He just thought I was some outsider pulling into the hay wagon.
Yeah.
But no, that's a great place to be. I'm tickled that you get to move back home and experience what you're getting to experience now.
Yeah.
With the legacy in that county.
Thank you.
From another standpoint, let's shift gears just a touch.
Sure.
And visit. The last time you was on, we talked to some show cattle.
Yeah.
And this time of year, I know most of the kids in our county have got their cattle, their beef project at home, starting to work with them. What are a few things that some kids should keep in mind during this time of the year, especially like with the weather events we've had, even with the county fair not till July, and the spring shows don't usually fire up till April? Is there what kind of things should they be thinking about or starting to implement in the process?
Yeah, really this time of year, I mean, a lot of our local 4-H programs are going to start kind of working with weigh-ins, and just so to me, I think this time of year, what's most important is just the time that you spend with those animals, and just say, just so they get used to you. And I know it's cold. I mean, this last week when we were feeding cows, it was a challenge. I wanted to be at home on the couch, but I think the more time you spend with those cattle now, the easier it is to work with them later. And so it's just one of those things where two things, and my dad always told me there's two things you can't cheat in life, and one of them is time, and the other one is effort. And so if you spend the time and put in the effort with those cattle, I think that will pay off in dividends later. Because here's the thing, I'm going to be judging a couple of spring shows already in March and April. So, I mean, we feel like we have time, but not really. I mean, so just the more time that you spend with those cattle, I think the better off you'll be. And try, the biggest thing that I always try to tell everybody is have a certain level of patience, with kind of working with them, and say, okay, we don't have to be a finished product right now, but we need to kind of start to make sure that we're ready to go, because the more comfortable those animals are later, the better they'll perform, the better they'll gain, the more trust you. And so just some of those types of things.
Well, I think it was you at our county fair back when, we used to do the county futurity and the county show back to back, which was what every judge wanted, is to see the same cattle within about 30 minutes of each other.
Different.
But I think it was you, Clint, that judged that year that we had a kid that hadn't worked with steer very much, comes in there, throws a show halter for the first time, and got sifted in the futurity.
Right.
Comes back in the actual county fair, and you used that same steer to win the Champion Angus. But he came in with a different halter, and you got a completely different look.
Oh yeah,
during that show.
I vividly remember that.
And that, I remember the dad saying, "We just sifted him a while ago." I said, well, he never got to look at him in the futurity. That thing danced around, spun around, everything else. And I said, good, you should have went to the rope halter to begin with, or
that would have helped.
Used the show halter sometime other than the day of the show.
Yes, for sure. And so, and I think the other big thing this time of year, if you have a local family or, somebody that you like the way they show and the way they do some things, go spend some time with them. See if you can be like, hey, can I come out to your place for a half a day and watch how they feed, watch how they handle things, watch how they, and see if they can help you with some showmanship type tips. And for some of those older kids, if you have a goal of making the round robin at your county show, maybe try to go to another species and say, okay, I need help.
Yeah.
And so the biggest challenge that I had when I was, and I still do this, the biggest challenge that I had when I was in high school and younger was I hated to ask people questions and ask for help. And it took me years to get over that.
Yeah.
And my mom would still tell you that sometimes I'm stubborn and don't ask for help as much as I should. But I think that would be another recommendation from me, is just, identify those kids and those families that have done well and that you like and that you have a good relationship with, and go spend time with them.
So do you think once, something that we used to do, one of my twins showed cattle for a couple of years, and something we tried to do is once we had that heifer, I called it shotgun broke, we'd load it up. I'd call a friend of mine 20, 30 miles away, say, hey, we're going to come over to the house, unload the heifer, and we'd practice showing at his place in a different environment than at our own place. Yep. And I thought that was extra valuable, especially because, when she was showing, he was 9, 10 years old, and you've seen my girls, they're not big as 14-year-olds, let alone as 9 and 10-year-olds. And so we always try to get those heifers, get those show calves exposed to as much stuff as we could prior to taking them to the fair. We didn't want them to see a pig for the first time at the fair, or a chicken. They get to see some sheep and goats around our place. But, we wanted to let them see everything they could. So if they had a little bomb in them, we'd get it out of the way.
Right.
And I think sometimes we over we overlook that step, and it's one of the easiest things you can do.
Sure.
You know?
And I think, like when me and my cousin Josh were in 4-H and really going, we had one of the loudest stereo systems in the world that we would, crank up in the show barn. And so we'd jam out, but it would also kind of desensitize, those cattle to, hey, there's noise, there's people. And I think that's your strategy is awesome, because then, okay, we take those animals to somebody else's place, then maybe, and it's somebody you like and that you trust, maybe that's a dad or, somebody in the family that can look at those animals and say, hey, maybe on a ration, maybe tweak this.
Yeah.
Or on a showmanship deal, one thing that I like to do for our kids is I like to try to video them, okay, when they show, because it's hard to teach them something that they don't necessarily see, or it's just kind of an automatic.
Yep.
So if you film them when you're doing those things, then you can go back and say, look, when you did that,
yeah,
that was great. Or, maybe try this, or, so, and if you do that with other kids that they're kind of competing with to get that blood pressure kind of up a little bit,
yep,
that's when you really start to make some positive change.
A couple of things that we do, and we didn't do it with the cattle. Well, some of it we did. We would video practice sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Besides being in an actual show ring at a show, we would practice, and we'd video that, and then we'd talk through. We didn't do it with the cattle, but we do it with our sheep and goats. Is in our show barn, we've got a big mirror up on the wall, and we've got what we call like a little bracing board or whatever. It's just a elevated area with some field turf on it, and the girls can put their lambs up there, their goats, and they set them up like they're going to show, but they can look and see themselves in a mirror
awesome.
of where their hands are, their legs are.
Yeah.
And I think I'm sure you'd have to have a little bit bigger mirror, a little bit bigger area. You could probably do that with the cattle, but I found a lot of value in that, because I did that out of frustration. I would tell them what I was seeing, but they couldn't see it. When I put that mirror up on the wall and they looked up and seen, oh yeah, I'm not doing anything like I'm supposed to, it changed their approach to showmanship, because there's just so much that goes into it. And that can, as we've seen, that can make or break you.
Oh, absolutely.
You can not get the best animal shown, and guess what? You can walk out there with the red ribbon if you know.
Right. And I mean, I've seen that time and time again, and I know you have too, where it's like, you have one animal, especially in the spring, when some of those animals aren't really the most broke yet. And so sometimes you'll see one that maybe doesn't do very well at one show in the placings, and then the next show, well, they've gone home and practiced, and then, wow, they end up winning one ring, I mean, so it's one of those things where one of the things that one of my big mentors when I was a kid always said, he said, trophies aren't won at the fair, they're just collected.
Exactly.
So if they're collected there, then that means that you have to put in some work to make sure that you're doing the best you can.
Yep. Well, and so me and my coworker on our way up here today to 4-H rally, we was visiting, and I've judged in some counties on the way from Barber County up to here. And I was talking through, and it's funny how you remember certain animals, whether it was last year or 6 years ago and stuff. And I shared with her in the county, I said, the one thing that stood out to me is I had judged a round robin, and I walked away from there going, I don't know what kid qualified in what species. And that wasn't meant because they were all at a high level. It was, they'd all came down to a mediocre level and just kind of did the bare minimum.
Sure.
And I try to tell that to, if it's my daughters or a family that's asking me for help, which we get calls for that, is always tell them, if you win showmanship, there should be no doubt if you go into round robin who won that species.
Right.
You should
Right.
stand out.
Yeah.
And
In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I know there's some counties that are probably more competitive than others,
Sure.
but primarily you can tell. Well, last year, judged one of the funnest sheep and goat shows I've ever judged out west. And I remember telling them, when I was wrapping it up, what a pleasure it was to evaluate those animals and get to work with those young people because of the quality of work that they had put in. And then the quality of animals, man, those things are fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot more fun to get a good group of kids and a good group of livestock in the ring than a bunch of bad ones. It's just there.
Sure.
And I don't mean like bad kids, but kids that have put in just the minimum amount of work.
Elbow grease.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the COVID year when everybody was at home because school got turned out.
Sure.
I go judge a county fair, and I remember telling the agent, I said, these kids have been out of school since March. He goes, yeah. I said, we ain't got a one of them that can get a goat to walk all the way around the ring.
What have they been doing? Right.
Said,
right. And that should be the year that you're nailed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing because one of the most fun shows I've ever judged was a spring show in Oregon. They had me come out, and there was over 150 head of cattle there, and they had 5 different families that had all been competitive in Denver or Fort Worth. And I mean, that was fun because it was a quote unquote spring show, but you had a couple Denver champions in your Supreme Drive. That was the most fun because those kids had done so much work, and so it was like, man, I gotta think today. Yeah. So I mean, but that's what makes it fun, I think, too. So I mean, just overall, just you cannot, put too much time into working with these, and if you're going to invest a year of your life in doing a project, do it right.
Exactly. Well, I'm looking at the time, and it appears the other rooms behind us have shut the lights off and everybody's gone. There was a group in that other room over there, which they can't see the door behind us. But I just want to tell you, thank you for taking the time to sit down and visit.
Absolutely, my friend.
Glad we got to bump into each other again. And I'm tickled you're back in Greenwood County. We actually entered that show last year in the spring, and in between the show we was at Saturday and getting there Sunday had some snags, and so I messaged Troy early that Sunday morning and said, well, enjoy our entry fees because we're not going to make it. But I told him, I said, that's one of the shows that if my kids show again this year, we want to go to.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
It's everybody's always told me, how well it's run. There's always quality judges. There's always quality livestock. It's a good measuring stick show.
Yes,
for the rest of the year.
If you want
to go on past your county fair.
Yes, for sure.
But glad you're back over in that area.
Yeah,
and good to see you at 4-H rally.
Great to see you, and I'm glad you're back in the game as well, my friend. It's good.
Back like a hot check.
For sure. We'll have fun.
You bet. Well, thank you, Clint. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin.